What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So, Kamen Rider Zeztz episode 30 just dropped, and I actually couldn't wait to tell you guys what had happened within the episode. So, yeah, I'm really just too excited. So, I'm really sorry, guys. I have to do this because there are definitely going to be a lot of lore drops in this video. So, with that said, I highly recommend that you guys, catch up on the latest episodes first before continuing with this video because, again, there will be spoilers. So with that said, if you actually want to know, the secrets that have been revealed in this episode, so by all means, enjoy. So we kind of pick up from last episode, right? So Baku's still reeling in shock, uh, about two things, right? So he almost killed Minami, uh, when he didn't realize that the nightmare was actually her. And number two, so Baku is also in shock learning that, well, he and Minami actually aren't siblings, and well, uh, it turns out Minami is also a code agent, or she has been a code agent all along. So, with that said, we learn more about them in this episode. So, at some point, like early in the episode, we see a flashback. So, we see Baku and Minami at their old house. Um, and Baku actually is like offering prayers at an altar specifically for the dead. So those deceased people were their parents. So, sometime before the show, Minami and Baku had lost their parents. So, yeah, Baku is trying to offer some prayers to them. So while Baku is doing that, Minami decides to go outside and maybe sweep the yard or something. And then she is greeted by Zero, who says that he has something important to talk to her about. So Minami also tries to call Baku, like, you want to talk to my brother too, basically, she says. But Zero says, like, no, uh, actually, don't call out your brother. Don't tell him anything, is basically what he said. So they had this private conversation revealing the truth. So it turns out that Mr. and Mrs. Yorozu, so their parents, were actually code agents themselves. So I have mentioned earlier that they lost their lives sometime before the show, so this could be somewhat nightmare related, but we don't really know the details about that just yet. In any case, so Zero reveals to Minami that, again, their parents were actually code agents, they're secret agents, and they were tasked with a very specific mission: taking care of Baku. So, in the previous episode, so in episode 29, so what we learned that, Minami and Baku aren't actually siblings. So, it turns out that so Mr. and Mrs. Yorozu had been, again, like, they were taking care of Baku, and Minami was the actual daughter born between them. So yes, Minami is the actual Yorozu and Baku is the adopted son, basically. So upon learning this, so Zero actually offers Minami, something else as well: the opportunity to become an agent. So she basically learns, like, the details about what was really on with Baku. Uh, but nonetheless, so we do see a montage of Minami actually undergoing agent training. And at the end of the montage, so uh, Zero presents Minami with a small box, and upon opening it, we actually see the necklace that Minami has been wearing all this time. And on that necklace, that cat-shaped necklace, by the way, it's engraved. So engraved on that necklace is number 17. So Minami Yorozu is also known as Code 17. So apparently there are actually other codes like in between like 7 to 17. So I am wondering why Baku is Code 7, but maybe he has been kind of groomed for that role. We don't really know for certain. But in any case, that's what happens. Again, Minami actually undergoes training as a code agent, and she basically takes over her parents' duties, of keeping tabs on Baku and reporting to code whatever is happening with him. So yeah, that's what's been happening all along. So again, at any rate, we eventually learn this as well, from the audience perspective. So now this begs the question, uh, what is Baku's true identity? If he's been given to the Yorozus to be taken care of, so who really are his parents? Well, I do have a theory, but that's gonna come later in the video. Nonetheless, what happens next is, so Minami, as like within her dream as well, so she keeps on looking for this missing cat, but it turns out like this search for the missing cat has already happened sometime, like again, some time prior to the actual series proper. So with that said, uh, so while Minami is looking for the lost cat, so she's still looking for it. So Sieg appears, and he's like there's at some sort of like a park or something, and Sieg sits down on a bench that kind of references like a different Kamen Rider show that was specifically aired in 2004. Specifically, that final episode of that show. I wonder what that show was. Nonetheless, so uh, basically, Sieg provokes Minami, and using his uh, dream altering powers. So he turns Minami into the cat nightmare once again, and Baku steps in and basically tries to defeat the cat nightmare once more. Okay. However, within Baku's mind, so like he still has memories of the times, like the time that he had spent with Minami, the time that they had spent as siblings. And basically, instead of like going all out with the catastrophe that could, in technically, like, he does have the power to defeat the nightmare, but in the process it would also kill Minami. So that's the thing, right? But again, upon like looking back at the time that they have spent together as siblings, they have been together for years, and Baku still sees Minami as his sister. So this is what triggers the activation for Baku to change from the catastrophe form into the Orderm form. So yes, this marks the debut of Kamen Rider Z's Orderm form. Now, considering that we are in in the 30s, in terms of episode count, this is basically like the time when like the main writer's final forms make the debut. So I'm not really sure, but typically like within episodes 31 to 33, we see the writers take on or like they appear rather. So they get their final forms at this point. So is Orderm the actual final form for Zeztz, or are we going to see another form down the line? I'm not sure. But again, this does actually remind me of Kamen Rider Agito's burning and shining form. And again, another parallel to that, because when Baku activates the Orderm form, so like the Catastrum cracks, and then like pieces pop off, revealing the Orderm form underneath, which is basically again very very similar how as to how like the shining Agito form came to be, like the burning form like cracks, and then like the pieces pop off, like cast off, and then revealing the the sleeker form underneath. So Orderm has an interesting ability, which is also like to rewrite dreams, and instead of like, or rather in opposite to the Catastrum's ability for destruction. So Orderm seems to like regenerate or recreate something. So with the power of the Orderm form, Baku is actually able to split the cat nightmare from Minami, and this is how like he defeats the nightmare once and for all. So he thanks to the Orderm form, he's able to do that while saving Minami at the same time. So, Sieg is disappointed. So, like, that's not fun. Like his typical reaction, and like he walks away. So, what happens next is Minami is back to normal, so she no longer has the cat tail. So she once again like tries to enter like the secret base, and she finds Baku making breakfast. So now they're siblings again, or at least they continue to live the life as siblings. And again, basically, Baku eventually forgives Minami for trying to keep a secret about her being a code agent and such. And yeah, so they promise to continue living as siblings, which is really touching, if you ask me. Like, again, like I do like the family drama aspect. So, like these past few episodes, right? So, it's really interesting to see that Minami is actually being pushed to the forefront of the story, rather than just keeping her as a side character. So, well, again, like she does provide some support for Baku, especially like after like since episodes like 25, like she does see that Baku has become an agent, but in reality she has known this all along. So, and with that said, we don't know how Minami is going to contribute, but there is potential for Minami to contribute even more to Baku's missions later on. And there is still like a possibility that she could become a Kamen Rider herself at some point. It's still too early to tell, but the idea is there, the potential is there, and like I can see this as some sort of nice build up to Minami becoming a writer in her own. Is it necessary? I'm not sure, but I still think it's a nice addition in general. So another thing that I noticed in this episode is like the opening sequence has been it's been updated once again. So again, like after like Lord 3 does that. So like the cat, a black cat jumps from behind him like and turns into human eyes, which I have said Like again, well, not me basically, but like other people have pointed out, like the shape of the eyes best resembles Minami's, and in this updated episode, it is Minami, like those eyes, like not just the eyes, but like they eventually show her whole face as that. So yes, it has been Minami all along. So fans have been correct to point that out. So now I have another theory. So I've mentioned earlier that there is a theory about Baku and his true identity, his true lineage. Now, hear me out. So now that we know that Baku is not a part of the Yorozu family technically, like he is an adopted son, or rather he was entrusted to the Yorozu family by code. Now, who is he related to, possibly? And I can think of only one answer for now. That is Zero himself. So I have actually seen like a preview. So I've seen the preview for episode 31, right? So well, at the end of the episode, really, they show the preview for the next one. So we see a young Baku talking to a man that is supposed to be his father, but I'm pretty sure that would be Mr. Yorozu. However, like I've said earlier, Baku has only been entrusted to the Yorozu family for like safekeeping. But again, it seems that Baku's true father, so at least as far as we could tell, would be Zero himself. And it would be like the ultimate twist, right? Consider this more like Star Wars type of situation. Like, Baku, I am your father. No! That would be I find it hilarious, but it might actually make sense. Like Baku as the child of Zero really would make for some compelling storyline at some point in the show. And another thing. So in the preview for episode 31, so we actually see a Dark Zeztz, or maybe should I say like a prototype Zeztz. So we see Baku again fighting this Proto Zeztz. So he's wearing the Physicum form, and this Proto Zeztz is in a basically like a completely black version. And like the driver isn't really a driver, but there is some sort of a sash on his torso. The way that the other riders or the lords would wear them, right? So nonetheless, uh, in episode 31, so we see Baku, he actually uh, meets Zero face to face for the first time, and he also gets to face Dark Zeztz. So, Dark Zeztz, this is still not really confirmed, but I am gonna call that Dark Zeztz is also Zero himself. So, again, while he's using the Zeroider to like hide himself, like he has actually developed like a prototype technology that would later be used to like create the invokers and again the Zeztz driver eventually. But again, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, but really, uh, even though there's like a lack of evidence so far, I'm still thinking that potentially Zero is Baku's true father. So Anyways, so we're just gonna have to wait for either like confirmation or like a debunk in future episodes. But this is where I'm like placing my bets for now. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. So by the way, I'm gonna give Kamen Rider Z's episode 30 a perfect 5 out of 5. So we get a new form introduced. There, like the family tension between Baku and Minami is also intense. Like the lore drop again, like the secrets that are revealed to us, like it's just like really exciting, and you're just gonna want to see the next episode. Really, yeah, I can't wait. So, with that said, thanks for watching, and as always, please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.